looking at you?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, this is Sam Rudin, my grandfather. He, along with his 8 other brothers and sisters, started Rudin in 1925, and that's why we're here today, 100 years later, celebrating a very unique milestone.
I knew my grandfather pretty well. He was an amazing person, and I felt very close to him. Sam's philosophy for the company was that he always built near good transportation, built quality housing that's safe and clean. He and his brothers had grown up in tenements, and he knew what it was like not to have that kind of housing. And he wanted to change that for people as much as possible.
The last time I saw him, I had come back from college, and he asked me to come with him to go downtown, handing out bonus checks to the union workers and express gratitude for their work. 2 days later, he passed away. And it's sort of, I think it was his way of saying goodbye to his troops. Sam was a true visionary, and his handshake was his bond. And he really cared about his customer, cared about his employees, his family, and New York City.
This is my great-grandmother, May Rudin, and the legacy of the women in our family started with May. She was a powerful woman and was truly, I think, the soul of our company. This is my great-grandmother, May, with her 2 sons, Jack and Lou. And they both joined the business under their father and helped build it up. And I love this photo so much because you just see how proud she was of them and all of their accomplishments.
This is my father, Lou, and Uncle Jack. They had a very unique, special partnership. 2 different personalities, but they truly loved each other, and it was amazing to be able to see them work together. And they had their moments. You know, they didn't always agree, but at the end of the day, they'd go in somebody's office and work it out and get the job done.
So that is a picture of Jack and Lou toward the end of Lou's life before he passed in 2001, and is just a representation of the bond that they shared as brothers. I had the opportunity to work with Jack in my career. I did not have the opportunity to work with Lou, unfortunately. I was 16 when he passed away. Sorry. You know, my grandfather was an incredibly important person in my life. I have many, many fond memories of coming to the office when I was a kid. Just very proud and honored to be a part of that legacy.
So this is a picture of me standing in front of the corner of Park Avenue and 51st Street, which is now officially called the Jack Rudin Way. And it's directly opposite from the Lou Rudin Way, which was a lovely way of the city to recognize my father and my uncle for all they did to help make it the great place that it is today. 1976 was perhaps the tail end of one of the worst recessions to ever hit New York. The city had been on the verge of bankruptcy.
President Ford has turned down New York City's request for help in paying $1.5 million in debts that will fall due by the end of June.
ABNY is an association for a better New York, which my grandfather Lou helped found in the 70s. A whole group of civic leaders banded together to help pull the city out of a very deep and rough time, the financial crisis that the city was going through.
This is myself, President Ford, and Lou Rudin. I think everybody knows the famous headlines in 1975, Ford to New York, drop dead. The president had made a speech to turn down New York for help getting through the fiscal crisis. A few months later, there was a lot of pressure put on the president to help the city. They finally agreed. But President Ford and Lou became golfing buddies and friends in spite of their differences about New York.
Abney became sort of, if you were a major leader, politician, and you had a message, you come to Abney to have that heard by New York and beyond.
This is a picture of my father and I hugging each other after I finished the 1987 New York City Marathon. The marathon was something that has been very important to the family. My grandfather, Sam, was a long-distance runner, and he died late in 1975. 1976, a guy named Fred LeBeau from the New York Roadrunners Club was trying to get together enough money to take the New York City Marathon, which had been about 4+ loops in Central Park, and to have it run in all 5 boroughs. And a lot of people thought it was crazy, but Jack and Lou loved the idea, and they said, we'll be your first supporters if you name the trophy after Sam Rudin. It was supposed to have been a one-time event. Here we are 50 years later, and they're still doing it in all 5 boroughs.
This is a picture from 1993. It is a memory for me of my experience with the marathon and handing out the trophy, which is something that I got to do starting when I was probably 6 or 7 years old. It is a great tradition that my generation got to be involved in, and now my children's generation has been able to take part in for the last couple of years. It's still a really fun experience.
I think that Marathon Day is the best day of the year to be in New York City. The amount of energy and joy on the streets of the city are incredible, and we're very proud to have played a small role in making it happen.
This is the original marketing brochure for 415 Madison Avenue, which was the first ever office building that our family built back in 1955. And it set off a boom period for our company, developing both residential and office.
So this is, I think, probably 1977. Eric and myself and my sister Beth and cousin Madeline were just all started to come into the business. There's a model here of 560 Lexington, which was one of the first buildings built after the fiscal crisis of the 70s. And so was able to work with particularly Jack on the zoning process for 560 Lexington Avenue.
Lewis had always been leasing, and Bill was particularly taken to that part of the business. I more or less followed my father's footsteps in being more involved in the construction side of the business and operations, although I never did like walking on steel beams.
I think that set the groundwork for later, when my dad passed away in 2001 and Jack passed away in 2016, where the two of us would be following the same footpaths of Jack and Lou, and then always come together with the rest of the family, our sisters, and then Sammy and Michael when they came into the business.
The Greenwich Lane, our project with the Ofer family in the West Village. This was an adaptive reuse of an old hospital in a landmark district, and then created a product that we're all so proud of with a central garden and courtyard, and really brought the vitality back to a neighborhood that at the time was in need of a little bit of a refreshing. And in the end, it delivered upon the Rudin way of understanding what connects and creates a beautiful neighborhood. Okay, so this is my great-grandmother May with my dad, who's holding my brother Michael, and then my Aunt Beth's eldest son, Carlton, and her daughter, Kyle, and then me on the ground. And you can really see here that there's just such an intergenerational love. And to this day, I think one of the most important things about our business is the fact that we are a family and that we care for each other. That is the common thread of our organization.
My sister Samantha and I are co-CEOs. We took very different paths to work at Rudin, but it's really amazing to be able to share the leadership with a sibling.
It's a huge honor to be the first woman co-CEO of Rudin. My cousin Madeline and my aunt Beth worked in the company for many years and paved the way for me, and I get to continue that legacy.
I couldn't be more proud of Samantha and Michael. Besides being wonderful people, they have really taken on their roles as co-CEOs.
I joke I have a front row seat to watching them grow and adapt our business. And just like, my sister and Eric and his sister brought a contemporary design and thought process to our business, they have brought it to our company now.
It's now the 100th anniversary of the starting of Rudin Management by Sam and his siblings in 1925. And I think Sam would be incredibly proud of what he sees today. Pretty unusual to have a business that has its fourth generation at the helm, and we're all very proud of that. And my hope is that it's going to continue.